Brilliant. Okay. So we're off recording and I can see in the chat, thank you everybody saying hello to everyone. I'm not going to go through them because there's so many of us today. So what we're going to cover today is what drives high performance. Is it something that is, we've got a small amount of it? Is it something that we can redevelop? So think about what drives high performance, why performance can or might go off the boil, how we can manage people, or if you manage people, you might do it yourself, or how can we encourage our managers, if we're in HR, which you can see a number of you are, how can we encourage these people to manage people appropriately for the levels of energy and performance, and just basically how can we motivate consistently high performance at a time when I think it's quite hard for people to remain energized. That's my theory, but I'm going to ask you and see whether you feel the same way. So I'm going to pop a poll up now just to give a sense. And by the way, I don't know what you say. This is anonymous, so don't worry about what you say. I'm interested in the 50 odd people that we have on this call, how energized you feel at the moment. And I'm thinking probably in relation to work. And let's see, where do you feel you are at the moment? Let's get a sense of that. And we'll maybe realize that we're not alone if we're in the same position as somebody else. So while you're doing that, I'm going to let you just, that's it. Oh, brilliant. Straight in there with the polls, guys. So we're at 75%. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to count down from 5 for any last people who want to come to enter. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so 88%. Let me share the results. It actually almost, it's amazing, no one's chosen 7. How random is that? But it looks to me like there's a handful of people who are sort of 8s, 9s, 10s. Hurrah, we'd like to know your secrets. But there's quite a lot of us who are feeling subpar, not that energized. Isn't that interesting? And we are probably relatively representative. I wonder whether that's the case for your people as well that are working there. So this is a really interesting topic. And one of the things that got me to do this is I found myself, I would consider myself to be reasonably energetic as a person. And I feel that my energy levels have fluctuated quite a lot. More so, you can understand why when we had COVID. But I'm wondering well, there's a few thoughts I have as to why that might be, and we'll explore those here. So using the chat, I'm interested in hearing, what do you think, what in your experience, you personally or the people that you work with, what drives high performance in your experience? So we'll just get a little bit of chat going here in terms of this before we go into some of the theories that I'm going to share with you. So what do you think drives high performance? Right, so the answers are coming through here. Brilliant. So feeling supported, says Elise here, an engaged workforce, opportunities to develop. Forgive me if I don't read everyone's out. It's just in there. Feeling valued, engagement, style of leadership, motivation, good leadership, opportunities of growth. Notice that a lot of these are very much linked to employee engagement, don't they? If you think about if any of you done an engagement survey, a lot of those sort of things. Enjoying what you do, says Catherine. Clear goals. I can tell I've got an HR, you're getting all the right answers. I shall show you purpose, autonomy, very, very good. Loving your job, absolutely, totally being engaged in it. So lots of great understanding your team, absolutely on an individual basis. And that's really relevant, linked to one of the slides I've got later. Just generally being motivated. So absolutely. So those things actually drive high performance, being involved, seeing how we fit in the bigger picture. So all of those things, and personal, Mike's saying also personal, so it might be something that's personal to you. Identifying with your organizational values, great leadership. All of those answers are brilliant, actually, because they totally resonate with the slide I'm going to show after this. So we all know what drives high performance, okay? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all of those things are there for all of us. And also it's quite personalized. So some of you might identify with one thing, loving your job, and others might say you really want to have clear goals and responsibilities is important to you. So it's one of those things that it can really vary. So driving high performance in your experience, I totally agree with your responses. Now, counter to that, what might cause you or yours or people who work with you to go off the boil, in your opinion? Because actually, a number of you have said, and for the majority of people, felt their energy levels were sub 6. What do you think has caused that? What is the reason for performance being slightly off the boil, feeling slightly low energy? What do you think that might be? What are the causes? So yeah, challenging in your personal life, absolutely. So things going on outside of work, lack of recognition, frustration with things like it's the same old maybe in the business, exhaustion, absolutely need a break, lack of resources, lack of direction, not knowing what the priorities are, what to focus on, not getting any feedback, having non-responsive colleagues, so you're not being energized by others and teamwork, good old micromanaging. Yes, Sylvia, so not something that doesn't fit with your values, so counter to your values, drains you, too much workload, poor leadership, too much stress, unrealistic goals, conflict and challenges, no career development, constantly changing priorities, lack of purpose, support, too much change, frustration is a key issue, lack of progress in key projects, looking for the perfect outcome, no feedback or guidance on performance, lots and lots. So we absolutely know there's a great, by all means, keep them going. Some excellent responses. So those things affect you. And of course, if you are a line manager, those things are likely to affect the people that you manage or are responsible for if you're in an HR role. So exactly as you said, the drivers of high performance, we pretty much know what they are. You can categorize them. And actually, you came up with all of these, which is absolutely brilliant. So we can categorize them into these buckets. And some of us are more intrinsically motivated. So by intrinsic performance motivation, I'm talking about things where like having passion and interest for something. So engaging activities, it really, you're passionate, you're just motivated to do it because you love it. Also autonomy. This is one, it's the counter of your micromanagement. Some people really are motivated by having autonomy and freedom to deliver in terms of that. Mastery fits into intrinsic motivation, which is where we want to get better at something. We're motivated by actually just mastering a task or a skill. And purpose, which definitely came up in the chat, where people might say that I'm motivated by my organization or the purpose of the role that I'm doing. I feel like I'm making a difference. I believe in the purpose. So that's intrinsic. It's intrinsic to the job. Basically is what you're saying. There's something fundamentally about the work that you're doing that you find quite motivating, whether it's purpose, whether it's learning it, whether it's allowing you to be autonomous, or just basically you're passionate and love it. And I think that's what Emma said, wasn't it? Then you've got extrinsic motivation, which is really key. And this is what is very important to us as organizations and managers, is people having really clear goals, making sure that they have regular feedback, to an extent, reward and recognition. Although those of you who remember, Hertzberg talks about hygiene factors, which is essentially saying that reward in the form of monetary reward, it is a demotivator if people feel they're not being rewarded, but it's not an ongoing extrinsic motivator. Whereas clear goals and objectives and feedback, working with manager to have that is a clear extrinsic motivator. And when I do training on performance management and the research that we've done in the literature, setting clear objectives and feedback is one of the most key things that you can do in an organization or get your managers to do to drive high performance. The third area is then personality and attitude. So that's more about the individual. So not everybody is like that. So some people are just naturally more resilient or less resilient. So they can jump back, they can bounce back, they can keep their energy high. Some people are more self-disciplined in terms of how they might work and the way in which they do it. Growth mindset, we've all heard about that. So it's similar to resilience, but that whole sort of not looking at failure in a negative way, they see it as something that they can grow, they can learn from. That can also be cultural. And then we've got values, and someone mentioned that. So feeling that your personal values align with the organization that you belong to. So that can make a difference as well. And then our fourth one is our working environment. And again, you came up with all of these. So these are things like, have I got the support of my line manager? Do I believe in, is my manager, do I believe my manager is a good manager? Do I believe in the leaders, the way they are in the organization? Do I have the right resources and tools for me to do what I want to do? And am I allowed to have the right work-life balance for me? So those are our categories. And I think you'll recognize that you came up with almost all of those. Of course, some of these will be stronger for us than others, and it's important for us to be aware of all of them. Absolutely. Daniel Pink's 3 motivators, said Elaine, absolutely. In terms of this, so it's important for us to have this breadth of awareness, because the people who report into us are not all going to be motivated in the same way. However, demotivators, I think, are quite standard. I'm just going to stop my video and restart it and see if it stops the flickering. So why this sort of information has been around for a long time, but for me, I believe there are other things that are compounding this. And again, we didn't have high, lots of us felt a little bit drained on this. I feel there's quite a lot going on outside, and feel free to agree or disagree with me in the chat here. But I was thinking, the hybrid, the remote working thing is brilliant for many of us that are still doing it. I appreciate not everybody is, because it does allow you to perhaps interchange life and work. Walk the dog. In theory, you could put in re-energizing activities around it. On the other hand, you're not getting the same recharging of the social batteries in the workplace. And there's a whole sort of thing as a line manager, it feels sometimes a bit more challenging to be motivating people by Teams or Zoom or whatever it is. Integration of work and life. Those of us who are in the workplace 10 years, 20 years ago, it used to feel quite separate, work and home life. That was a good and a bad thing. And I think the integration of home and life can be a good and a bad thing. Does it now mean that things that are at home, they kind of leak? There's a bleeding between our zones, which maybe use up our energy more. You've got lots of things, just if you think about generations of people with both parties are working, kids are at home, sandwich generation, people have got, my sort of age, got people, elderly parents. There's more pressures on people as well in terms of less ability to compartmentalize. We're seeing differences in working expectations of the people that we manage in terms of what they want. I mean, the political environment, there's wars. I was speaking to someone the other day who, in the UK, who's said they wake up in the middle of the night worrying about the wars and stuff like that. So there's some really tough things going on globally. We've still got high financial issues. Lots of change and uncertainty. And I just wonder whether, having had a pandemic, having had the wars, having had financial crisis, all these sort of things, people just feel a little bit drained by life. And that's one of the things that I think maybe is de-energizing a little bit. What do you think? Tell me in the chat. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Do you think it's completely unrelated? Because these were things that I reflected on. I thought, is that what's affecting me in terms of my fluctuating energy levels, or is it just that I need to do more of the good things? Mike's just asking a question. Are many of the items discussed the drivers for high performance, or the structure that's required for all high performance to take place? They are what I would say in different drivers of high performance. So I don't know, probably both is probably right, but I don't think you need it. I think the main point, Mike, I would say, is that it varies from person to person, as is so often the case. And as a line manager, what's quite important for us is to understand what motivates a specific person in our team. Are they more motivated by recognition, or do they need lots of support, or do they want to be left to get on with it? And being able to be more flexible to help with that. So that would be what I would take on it. But therefore, as an organization, we need to have the structure which enables all of those. If we completely lack one of those, particularly something like we lack goals, or we lack skilled managers, well, that is not going to drive high performance in our organization. Those two, the extrinsic and the work design. Right, so I'll keep an eye. How do you feel about this? Do you think it's more compounded? There's more stuff going on outside of work in terms of that? Let me know what you think. Let's see. So Yeah, I think that's it. So Mike's saying sort of you can't you probably can't compartmentalize like you might have been able to do to the same extent, which can mean you can, you know, it maybe it is more de-energizing. Sylvia feels it's a bit of a constant transition. Yes. Yeah. Social media sucks the doing out of people. That's a great term, Tori. Interesting. Emma says she thinks everything's changed since COVID. Feel busier and pulled in all directions more than ever now in the sandwich stage. Yeah. Society's changed mindsets. Interesting. Yeah. Yes, the sort of commute, which would be a recharge. That's a very good point, Clint. So I think that certainly, I mean, at the end of the day, this is sort of thinking and putting it out here. I'm not saying that it's not that it's law. That's just my sense of these things. And certainly, it seems that you know, you guys also are resonating to a degree. So it stands to reason that managing our own energy and that of our team, it's important. We don't want to burn out. Burnout causes real issues for the business and the individual, and it takes a lot longer to recover than it does to prevent it in the first place. Some of you might have come across this. This is called the pressure performance curve. And the point of this is really, the sources Williams 1994, is that at work, you don't want to be, you know, not doing anything, so you're bored. So that's you not at high performance there. You know, actually there's no pressure, but you're totally bored. The next level is this kind of comfort zoning. When we go into the yellow area, that's stretch. Now that's actually the point at which we are in optimum. We optimize our performance. And obviously you can go backwards into comfort zoning and board, or you can go, unfortunately, you can tip over into strain. So too much stretch leads to strain, and then of course overwhelm and burnout. And the thing about this is the way this, when I would have used this in training previously, it would have been something that you just thought about in the workplace. But now I think you could be having a stretch. It's all the other things outside of work can add to the stretch and strain. So you might be competent at your job, but because of these other things going on, that could push you over the edge into strain. One of the challenges you often have with people who are going, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Are they in the zone of delusion where they're stretching, and the problem is there's a risk of crash? So we as line managers need to be thinking about this, or HR professionals think about how we can manage this and prevent it and make sure people are recharging as much as possible, and we are supporting them in doing that. Now, I've got one more poll on that one. Let's just see where you feel you are in terms of this. So let me put the pressure curve up. So you decide, where do you think you are currently on the pressure curve? Brilliant. Okie dokes. 82%. Are we going to go up to 88%? Anyone else? Any more for any more? Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. And let's share. So I think you could say quite easily that there's a lot of stretch and strain going on there. And that probably correlates with the people are feeling 0 to 6 in the energy, doesn't it? So it's depleting your energy in terms of being stretched and then tipping over into strain. So something needs to be done about it. And again, if this is how we feel, other people are going to feel the same, aren't they? And saying that, it's interesting because actually boredom or comfort, that's not energizing either. This goes into that resonates a bit with the person who talked, was it Tori, who talked about the lost in social media type thing. Then you end up just, I don't know, draining ourselves looking at Facebook videos or TikTok videos or whatever it might be. I'm sure that de-energizes us as well. So interestingly, so you're not alone is what I say. Again, that if we take hope from that, we're not alone. So what are we going to do about this? Well, I'll look at how we can re-energize later, but I wanted to now look at how we could think about managing people in relation to where we think they are. So this is a managing energy and performance grid. Now, it's actually copyright Lucinda Carney. So it's something that's a little bit common sense. You've obviously seen 9-box grids. It's not a talent management grid. what I was doing is I was thinking about how would you adapt your style. So some of you will have done situational leadership, Hershey Blanchard. So it's got a bit of that, but that's only got 4 styles in it. I was thinking, what do you need to do to help people if they are in one of these boxes? So you could think of people in your team or yourself and identify what could be causing where they are, and then adapt your style, usually a coaching style, to help them develop. So if I go along the bottom, so across the bottom, we've got direct, support, and diagnose in terms of increasing in terms of performance. So if you've got someone who's got low motivation and energy, you can see that, and they're not performing, well, that for certain is a performance management situation, unless it's something that's happened suddenly, right? If it's sort of gradually happened, then you would want to understand what the cause is, but that would be a situation where you need to think about how to more formally manage them and give them real clear goals, direct them as to what is expected of them. If we then go further on, so someone's got low energy, but their performance is middling, that's an area where I think they need some support. So it might be someone, like we've said here, actually, just so maybe a little bit of nurturing, a bit of encouraging to go and do some renewal energizing activities, just generally paying an interest and working out what it is. So if we think about those motivators, are they motivated? What can we do about those motivators to improve them? Then along to the right, you've got someone who is low energy, but they're a high performer. Now, those for me are possibly high flight risk. So why are they low energy or low motivation? Have they missed out on a career opportunity? Are they really frustrated? Is there something big happening outside of work? Because I feel that someone at that level, they're not going to carry on being a high performer indefinitely. That's more likely that they are going to flip over into burnout, or you might lose them. So thinking about that. So that's those which have a different style. So you'd actually maybe talk directly to them about, I notice you're looking a bit low energy, or is there something wrong? What can I do? How are you? Obviously, you've got to use empathy. Obviously, you've got to have trust, but you need to understand what's going on for those people. Then if we go further up the grid, so people have got sort of moderate energy and the performance going from left to right. So someone who's got sort of a decent amount of energy, but is low performance, well, that might be someone new. It could be the same also for high energy, a new starter or something. But maybe, again, the focus, they don't know what to achieve. We said we've got very complex organizations. Have they got clear goals? So we just need to make sure they know what it is that's expected to perform. So clarity, focus them. If they've got moderate energy and moderate performance, well, that is classic feedback. Have they got goals have they got goals? Do they know how they're doing? Do they know what they need to do just to go that next level to achieve more? So how can we provide feedback about what they're doing well and what they could do even more of? It would be even better if. So they need clear feedback. And people who are high performers but medium energy, then we need to inspire them. What's going to motivate them? Where do they want to go? Again, tapping into those motivators we looked at earlier. How can we inspire them to do more? And just go up to that next level. How can we inspire them to keep their energy levels up? Because by keeping our energy levels up, it's almost like it feeds each other. If you've got high energy and performance, then hopefully what you're doing is keeping it building together. And then at the top, you've got people with high energy. They've got high energy, but they're not performing. Well, that probably is a training need, unless it's someone in the wrong job. Okay, so you want to channel that energy, but you want to make sure that that they know where they're going and what they're doing. If they've got if they're sort of in middle in terms of high energy and moderate performance, wow, what can we do to challenge them to go to the next level? So set them stretch goals, challenge them, motivate them with what they could do next, help them think bigger. And those who are doing both, then what we must do is recognize them, reward them, give them that give them that recognition in a way that they like, remembering that not everyone likes to be recognized in the same way. So this was just I thought was a helpful way of maybe thinking, if you want to adapt your style, or you could share this with your managers who want to adapt their style, to think about, how do I, we're not all created the same, how do I change my management style in order to get the most out of people? And then if I was working as a manager, as a coach, this is what the sort of things that I would maybe ask. So if I've got someone I think's got low motivation and energy, I would be talking about, what support do you want to complete your objectives? How can I help you meet this deadline? How are you feeling about life in general, and how motivated are you feeling currently? So you'd have those coaching conversations with people to sort of help work out how can we get that performance going and maybe even move that energy up. Actually be direct about how motivated are you, what's going on for you, that level of empathy. If people could say, can talk about what's bothering them, it is actually quite important, because if it's outside of work, just sharing it can help people. If they've got high motivation energy, then it's about just that performance. So how could you do it, challenge it? How could you do this even better, faster next time? What would take this to the next level? What would challenge you further? How could you deliver an extra 20% with the same effort? So that's not about running people into the ground, incidentally. It's about just helping people to keep on performing, to not be bored. Quite a chunk of people saying, I'm comfort zoning, I'm bored. So how do we keep things varying and mixing it up? So those are some of the practical things that I thought was useful. Comments, what did you think about the grid? Does it make sense to you? Do you feel that this is logical, that you could share this with people, or you could apply this to your team and think about how you would use a different style? Let me know what in the chat whether you think that makes sense to you. So what I'm going to do here. So how do we re-energize? So these are my 4 quadrants of energy renewal. This is taken from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or it's a variation on Stephen Covey's renewal. So he talks about physical, emotional, mental, and he talks spiritual is his term, but I've kind of coined the spiritual mindful. So fundamentally, if we're trying to help people energize, I've just seen that getting a virtual commute or the walk, this sort of thing, a bit of physical, I dog work first thing in the morning, that's quite key for me. And actually going out and listening to my podcast, not my podcast, but other people's podcasts, listening to podcasts and things like that with the dogs, getting outside, that's quite key for me every day. But exercise, eating the right things, sleeping properly, drinking enough water, those sort of physical things. We can't really feel optimum if we're not looking after the physical things. But then equally, emotionally, how are we doing in terms of relationships? Have we got positive relationships and positive relationships at work? In terms of our mental, are we growing? This came to that sort of mastery. Do we feel like we are developing in our roles? Are we stagnating, or are we learning new things and new skills? Is there something about hybrid working? Does that mean that we're not as many new skills? I don't know. And then mindful, people having a purpose, so seeing the purpose of what they do, feeling it makes a difference. If you're religious, then religion can be really helpful. Then getting out in nature, so you walk outside, can work there as well. So yes, so those are things just as a reminder. And I thought, given our energy levels here, we should all make a little commitment before my final takeaway slide here. So which of those, in a moment when I can get my grid out, which of these do you think you would like to challenge yourself to do more of, is my thing. So make a commitment to yourself. I guess if you were on 10 out of 10 energy bouncing off the walls, maybe you don't need to do more of anything, except sleep, maybe. Which of these do you think you can do more of? It's always good for us to remind ourselves of things like this. Are you going to get out and do a walk? Are you going to go and walk after we've done this webinar? Go and get fresh air, especially now it's decent weather in the UK. Do you want to learn something new? Are you going to look up some friends, or go and meet someone for a coffee? Or are you just going to do some meditation in terms of mindful renewal? So have a think. What are you going to do? Make a commitment to yourself as to how you could re-energize you. Okay, well done. And here we go. I'm just going to share this. So that looks like quite a mix of things, with physical winning out. By all means, if you've got any bright ideas, pop them in the chat, because I like the fact that someone said, actually, I do my commute, my virtual commute. So if you've decided something you're going to commit to, feel free to say what it is you're going to do in the chat, because you might inspire somebody else to do something similar as well. Okay, so my final slide, tips and takeaways. I believe that the environment in 2024 is challenging to maximize performance for a variety of reasons. That's my hunch. Sounds like we're all roughly in agreement. I'm not entirely sure what the causes are, but maybe it's post-pandemic fatigue. Ultimately, motivation is multifaceted. It is linked to energy. we need to think about it for ourselves, and we need to think about it for others. Identify maybe gaps in our organization or our managers' skills, and think about how we can get our managers to think about how they can motivate and energize high performance. Because actually, I have lots of people download stuff about underperformance. It's one of our biggest topics that people come to us and ask about information for, and I run quite a bit of training on managing underperformance. But this is the precursor, isn't it? Prevention is so much better than cure. So we really need to be able to prevent these issues. And for me, one of the things, a positive way of doing it, is about how can we keep people's energy levels up. We need to face up to it. It's slightly different from well-being. It overlaps with well-being, but I think this is about energizing performance, right? We still all need to perform. Thinking about the individual needs in relation to those, and adapting the management style to meet it. And as I say, you'll get the slides, so you could refer back to the grid. I will probably write a blog on it in a bit more detail. So I think someone said actually that you might need more explanation. Absolutely. If this is a headline, you guys are an experienced group of people, many of which HR professionals, etc. So there's a bit of common sense there, but you could absolutely train people as what the specific skills are that you'd need to do. Why don't you share awareness with your people in terms of the 4 quadrants of energy renewal? Encourage your people to be doing those. We've probably stopped doing that since COVID. And actually just think about coaching. Make sure your managers are coaching, because it's those coaching skills. But you can coach for high performance in a challenging way, and you can coach in a supportive way. So getting our managers to have those coaching skills is going to help people it's going to help diagnose where the energy drain is, and it's going to help and enable people to take responsibility for building their own energy themselves. So those are my tips and takeaways. I'm going to have a little look at the chat. That's a good idea. I'll have a think about that, Ali. A tool that helps individuals undertake a self-check. I will have a think about that. We'll send it out. Right, keep an eye on things. We put them out on LinkedIn on our Actus thing. If I do something like that, I'll see if I can do a self-check of some description. So those are my key points. As I said to you before, Katie will send out a link to this recording if you've come in part way through, so you can catch up on what you missed. And we'll also send out links to the slides and PDFs and various other things. We've got other things coming up. We've got in this series, the performance series, more about high performance strategies. That's the next one in a few weeks' time. We've got an Actus open demo if you want to see what Actus is all about and how it's been refreshed. And that's on the 20th of June. And then our underperformance. So all of these webinars are suitable for line managers. So if you want to, and also there's some of the content aligns with those management booster series that I mentioned at the start. So those are sort of things, if you wanted to give more of these skills within your organization, that sort of content, this is like a snapshot of the content that we can go into more detail when we're talking directly to line managers. Okie dokes. So all the links will be on here. These are coming out to you. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. If anyone has any specific questions, please do feel free to pop them in the chat. Feel free to chat with each other as there's already going on. But otherwise, thank you for joining, and I hope to see you again on a future webinar.
That's great. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks, Clint. Bye.
Bye, Clint.
Bye.
Oh, good story. Well done. That's self-care for learning. Thanks, guys. Really nice to see some regular attendees.
Should I stop the recording?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good.